from the London Contemporary School of Piano, and today we're going to run through the Elton John classic, Bennie and The Jets. But firstly, let me get my Elton groove on. Sorry, this is the best I can do. I don't quite have the glasses collection that Elton has, but I also live in a country known as England, and there's no sunshine in this country, so this just helps me, believe that perhaps there is. So, on to the classic tune, Bennie and the Jets. Well, before I run through the piece, I just want to show you the famous part of the song, the piano riff that everyone knows and enjoys. And I think just, to give you a little bit of instant gratification before we get into the nitty-gritty of the tune. So this song is based on two wonderful chords, G major 7 and F major 7. And by the way, if you need help with your chords or any of your music theory or understanding, you should head over to our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, if you like our work at the London Contemporary School of Piano, and you should get our free resources pack because it's a summary of many of our most popular YouTube videos where you can have these resources for free of charge for you to practice and enjoy. If you're really serious about your musical progress, you should inquire about our Complete Musician Piano Essentials course, which is designed to really bring out your inner Elton John and go much, much further in your musical journey and adventure. Okay, onto those two chords, G major 7, F major 7. I have to say, this is quite a quirky piece of music. I think that's why it's so legendary. These are slightly jazzy chords. You could say they're jazzy chords with these sort of major 7s, but they're played in the most non-jazzy way, and I'm going to break down what that means a bit later. But for the time being, let's have a play of it then. And we're just play it in a really simple way. G major 7. F major 7. Let's do that again. Sometimes I'm dropping that bass in slightly earlier than the right hand. So I've kept that really simple. I've just played them in root position, G major 7, F major 7, and it's just sitting on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's almost like a march-like rhythm with jazzy chords, a very strange juxtaposition of chords and rhythms. Anyway, let's now put that famous little piano riff that's in between those two chords, and it's probably best to play it in octaves. So here are the notes. It's E, D, B, C, and then it settles on the A. And when you hit the A, you're on that F major 7 chord. So it's this. And then we're probably going to do a nice inversion of that F major 7 chord. Just remember, Elton never in his gig plays his songs exactly the same way twice. He'll shift around the inversions. He'll make those subtle changes every time he plays. And you should watch him play different gigs of this piece throughout his career because he often really treats it in different ways. I think his version in Central Park, New York is like one of the best versions I've found on YouTube. And his version actually in the late 70s live in the Soviet Union with just a percussionist, his percussionist Ray Cooper, is unbelievable. My gosh, he doesn't need a band when he's on fire on the piano. He is a band. There are two versions to look out for if you want to have some fun. But anyway, so now let's insert that riff into these two chords. Could also do it like this. You can see what I was doing there on that F major 7. I was playing the F major 7 in different inversions. which Elton often does when he plays the piece as well. He doesn't just stay stationary on the same position. He might do something like this. And then a little bit of syncopation with that march-like rhythm. And that's another thing he does. He often, on that F major 7, alternates between the F major and the G major chord while just keeping the left hand on an F. Sounds great. You get this sort of effect. And I'm sort of improvising here, but very much in an Elton John way. You know, his chords like F major, G major, but you can see if you break that down slowly what I'm doing it in inversions. I'm just moving between those two chords. So it's a good way to practice your inversions, actually, is to practice these two chords for this piece. And it's such a recognizable piece for people as well. So often when Elton plays this in his gigs, he spends long periods of time improvising just on those two chords at the end of the song, you know, and then gets the audience to shout out, Bennie, 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 Bennie and the Jets. I haven't got the notes today. They're not coming out the right way, but you get the idea. It's sort of like he's doing this call and response with the audience. It's almost like panto music, you know, it's this very British 1, 2, 3, 4 music with jazzy chords. So it is quite eccentric. And I think that's why this piece has stood the test of time. And actually, from anecdotes I've heard on certain Elton John documentaries, Elton was quite skeptical that this piece would ever succeed. I think he almost at one point felt a little embarrassed about it. This is maybe a bit too quirky and a bit too British. The American audiences won't get this at all. But fortunately, he wasn't right there. And you know, his producer Gus Dudgeon did some amazing stuff. It's actually worth talking about. His producer Gus Dudgeon did some amazing stuff, sampling in sounds. This is on the original Goodbye Yellow Brick Road album version of the piece, sampling in sounds of a live audience, clapping on the first and third beat of the bar, which is not a very pop music-like thing to do. Again, it just sounds like, you know, English people at the pantomime or something. So it is really quite quirky. But yeah, it really, really works. It really has stood the test of time, that really cool production. And also it stood the test of time as a great piece for Elton to gig on. So that's the main, you know, piano riff of the piece. And if you're into exploring Elton John's music on the piano, it's just worth just spending time on those two chords and really having fun with it and improvising it. I'll give you a pro tip, by the way. Just get the original track from the Yellow Brick Road album and play along with it. Just play along with the musical rhythms on the track. Got that feeling that you're playing with a band. Okay, so now we're going to move to the next part of today's lesson. What we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the chords of the song now in the verses and break them down a bit. And again, I can't stress this enough. If you are really serious about your piano journey, you should consider joining our Complete Musician Piano Essentials course, because no matter what level you're at, the purpose of this course is to comprehensively free you up at the piano so you can really ignite your inner maestro. I have to say, a lot of this teaching is quite influenced by the freedom that I see in some of the best pianists, and definitely the most creative, famous pianists that I've loved listening to over my whole life, like Elton John or the likes of Keith Jarrett, the likes of pianists that just really can let go and free up on the piano and not get bogged down by logistics. And, you know, just this ability to jam out, you know, a G major 7 and an F major 7. I mean, there's no way that piano exams, you know, formal piano exams can teach you how to do that. And I think that's the really big critical element that is missing in our music education. It's just not holistic enough. They're the gaps that I'm really passionate about filling in people's education and finding those holistic gaps so you can become, the musician, the artist you didn't think you could become. And it's very possible. I have so many case studies of students that have achieved incredible things with their playing because they've learnt how to free up at the piano. It's so, so important. Let's talk about these wonderful chords. So as you can see on this lead sheet, we've got the introduction here, G major 7 and then F major 7. And we've been just jamming on that. And that's also the play out of the piece. So there's a lot of soloing and improvisation on those two chords. So now let's just slowly play over the chords of the verse. Now the chorus. Then to that intro again. So some lovely chords going on here. Let's just talk through what some of these chords are. You've got A minor 7 to D7, then to G major. You could probably play a G major 7 there as well. Both would work well. And then you've got a G sharp diminished chord. Here are the notes of a diminished chord. So a diminished 7 chord, if you've never played a diminished 7 chord, it's got minor third intervals just stacked and built on top of each other. So minor third, minor third, minor third. Then A minor 7, D7, and then E minor. So, by the way, there's just a little error on this score. That is a full diminished chord, not a half diminished chord. Those of you who know your music theory well will know that. But a full diminished chord, again, it's the circle, as opposed to the circle with the stroke through it. It's minor third intervals stacked on each other. You don't come across diminished chords very often in pop music. Again, it gives it a slightly Broadway feeling. Hey kids, shake it loose together. The spotlight's hitting something that's been known to change the weather. We'll kill the fatted calf tonight, so stick around. Gonna hear electric music, solid walls of sound. So you can hear how that works nicely with the verse. So the piece is in the key of G major. You've got chords like 2-5-1. That's a slightly jazzy progression. As we know, that's used a lot in jazz. You've got the passing diminished chord, another 2-5, but then it goes to a 6. And then you've got the 2, 3, and the 4. Just nice conventional chords, but just used very tastefully in relation to the melody. This is really original musical writing. Some really lovely things in the chorus and a bit of a really cool Elton trick at the end of the chorus, which we'll talk about. That C major to the B flat over the C. I will talk about that now. Bennie and The Jets, that bit, that is signature Elton. There's so few artists that do stuff like that. In the key of G major, you go to a chord 4, a C major, then you go to it's the B flat. You could call it a flattened 3 with the C in the bass. He does something similar in a piece in 1971 called Burn Down the Mission, actually, where he uses chords G major, E minor, B flat with a C in the bass. It's such a unique progression. You don't really hear anyone doing progressions like that. You just know it's Elton John straight away. It's just fantastic writing. So interesting. So much pop music today, and I'm going to go into a rant if I'm not careful, but so much pop music today is like, it's the same old chords used over and over again, and it just goes like this, na 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 na. And, if you've seen that Axis of Awesome video where they just basically show how all the same pop songs just doing the same things. The music like this is really precious because it's actually unique, it's original. Oh, Kenny and Ronnie, have you seen them yet? Oh, but they're so spaced out. Bennie and the Jets. Oh, but they're weird and they're wonderful. Oh, Bennie, she's a really queen. She's got electric boots, a mohair suit. You know, I read it in a magazine. Oh, but Bennie and the Jets. I've also just in this original piece, it does have an E minor and then an E minor slash to a D in that bar, which is missing from this iReal Pro score. But other than that, that's exactly how the chords go and land for the piece. So let's run it all now. Just we'll run a simplified version without any bells and whistles, and then I'll play out more of an Elton style bells and whistles version at the end. So we're just going to run through it. When I'm singing it, excuse my singing, I'm going to sing it an octave lower than Elton sang it in 1973. I just can't get those notes. So, you know, I might sound a bit boy bandish, but it'd be better than me sort of squeaking. So let's go from the beginning and run the whole thing through. We've got the introduction. Hey kids, shake it loose together. The spotlight's hitting something that's been known to change the weather. We'll kill the fatted calf tonight, so stick around. We're gonna hear electric music, solid walls of sound. Oh, Kenny and Ronnie, have you seen them yet? Oh, but they're so spaced out. Bennie and the Jets. Oh, but they're weird and they're wonderful. Oh, Bennie, she's a really king. She's got electric boots, a mohair suit. You know, I read it in a magazine. Oh, but Bennie and the Jets. Second time, there's the second verse, second chorus, there's even a solo instrumental, and then the third chorus, and then he jams it out to the end with those G major and F major 7 chords. So that's a bit of a layout of the piece. So now I'm going to do a bit of a bells and whistles version of the G major 7 to the F major 7. Which you can, if you're sitting at your piano now, just play with me now. Improvise a little bit with me. So we've got, how do we improvise on a G major 7 chord? And again, if you're really interested in developing your improvisation skills and your freedom skills at the piano, you really want to free up, head over to our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, and ask about our Essentials piano course, our Piano Essentials course. It really will make the world of difference. Or if anything, you could just grab our free resources pack. There's a lot of really, really useful stuff in there as well. So for Bennie and the Jets here, what have we got here? We've got a G major 7 chord. So if you're improvising on a G major 7 chord, well, really, you can just think of a G major scale. Anything out of the G major scale will work. Elton's doing lots of chordal sort of stuff. He's like sort of making up chords, stacking notes inside the G major scale when he does these sort of long improvisations on this section of the piece. Then you got the F major 7. You got a couple of choices here. We don't really actually play an F major scale here. That would be the misinterpretation. Thinking, okay, it's an F major 7 chord. I might as well play an F major scale, but it just feels too formalized to do that. It's often a mistake people also make when they play blues, right? The chord changes in a 12-bar blues. They think they have to change key. And it's like, no, you actually don't want to do that. It just sounds contrived. You're not actually changing key of the song with the chord. That means you're going to have a B natural there instead of a B flat, as if you were playing an F major scale. So if you want to talk modal talk, that's an F Lydian mode, but you don't have to think in modes. You can just still think, all right, I'm playing an F major 7 chord, but I'm putting a B in it. And that just relates back to the first chord a bit nicer. So it creates a nice sort of artistic deception. You got these group of notes. Then you got these group of notes. So that's how we're going to build an improvisation on it. Okay, let's go for it. Now, please keep in mind, I've been improvising piano my whole life, but I think you can see the premise of what I was doing there with those two scales, and definitely having the Elton glasses on did help my mojo. But seriously speaking, you can see how I was just really towering around and playing with those two scales and not having a formalized prescriptive approach. And I mean, that's the joy of playing piano to me. And I invite you to make that your joy as well with the piano. And if you want to learn more about what it is we do, how it is we do it, visit our website. I'll take these glasses off now. Yeah, there's just no sun in this country. I just need to accept it. I look forward to seeing you soon. And just visit our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, and we look forward to hearing from you. And we'd love to share you some more information about our wonderful courses, including the Complete Musician Piano Essentials course. See you soon.